WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 o'clock in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Abuja. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world. We are live on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Abduction of Guinean activist Abdul Sako today raises concern of citizen state of freedom.
For
a moment, we do not know what Mr. Abdul Sako is accused of, but from our sounds, he was arrested very early this morning, around 4 a.m.
Ivorian defense sector to scale up border patrol with neighboring Burkina Faso. Liberia's Supreme Court denies petition challenging the constitutionality of President Joseph Boakai's executive order on asset recovery. And President Mahama directs appointees to declare assets by March 31 or face sanctions, including removal from office.
I've asked the Chief of Staff to send word to all appointees to ensure that they declare their assets by the end of the first quarter of this year.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone. We begin Newslink in Guinea, where the disappearance of Abdul Sako, the coordinator of the Forum of Social Forces this morning, from his home by supposed elements of Guinean Special Forces, has sparked a lot of tension and worry to citizens. According to the Forum of Social Forces of Guinea, the coordinator was abducted to an unknown destination through an illegal and arbitrary arrest, a situation likened to the disappearance of two activists, Fonike Menge and Mamadou Biloba. The communications officer of the National Alliance for Alternation and Democracy, members of the Social Forces, Suleimana Konete, speaks about the situation.
For a moment, we do not know what Mr. Abdul Sako is accused of, but from our sounds, he was arrested very early this morning, around 4 a.m. Special Forces units intervened in his home. Many of its citizens were tied up, threatened with death if they did not indicate the house where Mr. Abdul Sako was. And finally, they came and hit the door, the ceilings, which were used to descend into the living room with violence. He was assaulted, arrested, taken on board by, this Special Forces unit. Today, we rarely deploy this way of acting on the part of the military agent who seeks to support all the dissident voices in our country.
And that's the communications officer of the National Alliance for Alternation and Democracy, members of the Social Forces, Suleimana Konete, speaking about the situation. The Ivorian Defense Minister Tene Barihima Ouattara has expressed his country's desire to strengthen its military collaboration with Burkina Faso in particular to deal with terrorism. According to him, though the Burkinabe side has not fully given consent to the new development, he believes that securing the borders between the two countries will improve lives of citizens in both countries, as well as last security cooperation between the two countries was actually dated back to the year 2021. Reacting to this development, senior researcher at the Institute of Security Studies, ISS Williams Asamvo, speaks with WADR about the possibility or the potential implications of a lack of security consensus on the country's borders.
We must emphasize the fact that this is not the first time that the Ivorian authorities have expressed their availability and their desire to collaborate with Burkina Faso to face this common challenge of terrorism at their common borders. This is not new aid because there has already been an expression of willingness and availability on the part of the Ivorian authorities to collaborate with Burkina Faso to face this common threat at their borders. The military material and financial aid which had been provided to Burkina Faso by the Ivorian authorities had been done, I think, a few months ago, perhaps a year, a little over a year. So it's not a new aid. So I think that the position of the Ivorian Minister of Defense is part of this willingness to find ways and means to collaborate with Burkina Faso. And as I indicated, the time is probably not for good collaboration given the climate of mistrust and even mistrust with accusations on both sides of a desire for destabilization. It takes two to tango. So I am not sure that for the moment the two partners, despite what has been excluded on the part of the Côte d'Ivoire, I am not sure that the climate is conducive to the realization of this collaboration.
That's the senior researcher at the Institute of Security Studies, ISS, Williams Asanvo. The Supreme Court of Liberia has denied a petition challenging the constitutionality of an executive order issued by President Joseph Boakai, which established the Asset Recovery and Property Retrieval Task Force. The petition was filed by Gracious Right Company, a commercial vehicle enterprise owned by Finda Bondo, who served as chief of protocol during the former President George Weah's regime. Delivering its ruling on Tuesday, the Supreme Court stated that the petitioner lacks the legal standing to question the functions of the third party, particularly the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission. The Asset Recovery Task Force was established in March 2024 through Executive Order Number 126 by President Joseph Boakai to search, seize, and investigate government assets that were acquired illegally. WAD House Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
The Supreme Court's decision comes after nearly 8 months of liquor disputes initiated by Gracious Right Company, which argued that the executive order establishing the Assets Recovery Team was unconstitutional and could infringe upon property rights. Gracious Right also claimed that the vehicles in question were lawfully owned by the former chief of protocol Finda Bondo. However, the Supreme Court found no merit in these claims, affirming the legitimacy of the Assets Recovery Team and allowing it to operate as intended. Following the Supreme Court's ruling on Tuesday, the Asset Recovery Team quickly issued a statement highlighting its readiness to resume investigations into the theft and acquisition of suspicious and illegal assets by past and present public officials, private individuals, and business entities. Established under Executive Order Number 126 issued by President Boakai in 2024, the Assets Recovery Team is tasked with tracing, identifying, and recovering assets that were illegally misappropriated by former government officials. However, the establishment of this team has sparked considerable debate, with critics expressing concerns about its potential use as a political tool against individuals associated with the previous administration. For West Africa Democracy Radio, this is Abraham Parker reporting from Monrovia.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Nigeria, a total of 381 former Boko Haram fighters are scheduled to be reintegrated into their respective states as part of the government's ongoing re-radicalization and rehabilitation efforts. According to WAD House correspondent in Abuja, this development follows the surrender of over 2,000 insurgents and their family members since the launch of Operation Save the Corridor.
In 2016, the Nigerian government launched Operation Safe Corridor, a rehabilitation and reintegration project aimed at low-risk, repentant Boko Haram fighters. During a stakeholders meeting convened to finalize plans for transferring rehabilitated individuals to national and state authorities for reintegration, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, announced that the current batch of 381 former fighters has been properly profiled and is ready for reintegration. Represented by the Chief of Defense Policy and Plans, Air Vice Marshal Shayo Olatunde, the CDS emphasized that Operation Safe Corridor was established in response to the mass surrender of Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa's province ISWAP members following sustained military pressure and coordinated stakeholders' efforts.
Between July and November 2024, a total of 825 clients were transferred to the DDR camp to commence training. Amongst them are 14 foreigners from Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. It is also important to mention that 22 clients were subsequently transferred to the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital Maiduguri for further evaluation and management.
The initiative aligns with Nigeria's constitutional provisions and international human rights laws, aiming to rehabilitate and reintegrate former fighters back into society through a structured, multi-agency approach. Since the program's inception in 2016, records indicate that Operation Safe Corridor has processed a total of 2,190 individuals, including 2,163 Nigerians and 27 foreign nationals from Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
In Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama has issued a warning to his appointed officials regarding potential sanctions, including removal from office if they do not declare their assets by March 31, 2025. President Mahama's statement on Tuesday followed his own asset declaration to the Audit Service in accordance with the Constitution requirements specified in Article 286 of Ghana's 1992 Constitution, as well as the Public Officers Declaration of Assets and Disqualification Act 1998. From Accra, WADR's correspondent Nade Tete reports.
On Tuesday, February 18, 2025, President John Dramani Mahama officially submitted his assets portfolio to the Audit Service. This was in compliance with the constitutional requirement outlined in Article 286 of the 1992 Constitution and the Public Office Declaration of Assets and Disqualification Act 1998, Act 550. The declaration received by Auditor General Johnson Isidu provides details of the President's properties and assets. Following his lead, President Mahama has instructed all his appointees to declare their assets by March 31, 2025, with consequences, including removal from office for non-compliance.
I've taken this step of presenting these forms publicly as a way of injecting some openness and transparency into the process of assets declaration. I've asked the Chief of Staff to send word to all appointees to ensure that they declare their assets by the end of the first quarter of this year, that is by 31st March 2025.
The President also emphasized the need to strengthen the asset declaration regime through the ongoing constitutional review process to address loopholes and ensure greater compliance and accountability.
I believe that we must move to a regime where the assets so declared can be published before and after public office, so that the phenomenon of unexplained and overnight wealth, obviously earned through the proceeds of corruption, can be checked.
President Mahama further emphasized that the asset declaration process, if properly curated and enforced, can become a sustainable tool for fighting corruption. For WADR, Nade Tete, Accra.
More on governance issues, the President of ECOWAS Commission has praised the head of state of Senegal, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, and Guinea-Bissau, Umar Sissoco Embalo, for their efforts in promoting regional cooperation. Dr. Umar Aliou Touré made the statement after the two leaders attended the Gambia 60th Independence Day celebration on Tuesday. He also emphasized the role that the Gambia play in the formation of the regional bloc and called for continuous collaboration among member states. In an exclusive interview with WADR's Banjul correspondent Sankole Janko, the ECOWAS Commissioner President extended his best wishes to the Gambian people on their Diamond Jubilee.
This is a major milestone, and I congratulate the President, the government, and the people of the Gambia on this important day. And I pray that God keeps the country united for a better future. And indeed, the Gambia played a key role in the foundation of ECOWAS. And as you know, ECOWAS and the Gambia continue to work together, not only for the Gambia's security, but for the regional security as well.
We've seen two West African heads of state in Diomaye Faye and President of Guinea-Bissau, President Sissoco Embalo. How significant is this in terms of regional cooperation?
This is what ECOWAS stands for. ECOWAS stands for collaboration, cooperation, integration of the people, and we are happy that Their Excellencies President Diomaye Faye and President Umaru Sissoco Embalo have been able to come over to join their Gambian brothers and sisters to celebrate this important day. We are praying for a united West Africa, a region that is focused on peace and security, as well as socio-economic development of the entire region.
And that's the voice of the President of ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Umar Aliou Touré. To some health issues, the 65th conference of the West African College of Surgeons is currently underway in the Malian capital, Bamako. The meeting aims to significantly improve healthcare delivery in the sub-region, including Mali. It brings together more than 1,500 surgical specialists from several countries. Eche Atiso has more in this report.
The 65th West African Conference of Surgeons, held under the theme Cancers in Countries with Limited Resources, the Evolution of Care and Research, aims to enhance health systems in Mali and the Sahel region. The Malian authorities hope to review the country's health system through the annual meeting. Major General Abdoulaye Maiga is the Prime Minister of Mali.
The theme of the 65th Annual Conference aligns well with the vision of the transitional president, head of state, to equip Mali with an efficient healthcare system. Indeed, among the 8 areas outlined in the framework letter that His Excellency General Assimi Goïta, President of the Transition, head of state, sent to the government to serve as a foundation and compass, the improvement of health coverage and the development of a national solidarity system are prominently featured.
In the lead up to the conference, several initiatives have been undertaken, including care for the sick people and the training for healthcare personnel in hospitals. During this conference, various activities are planned, including training workshops, a free surgery campaign for 500 patients, and high-level discussions focusing on cancers, as well as war and emergency surgeries, with over 500 scientific communicators.
Bamako correspondent Alio Chiam's report and voice by Eche Atiso. You're still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and around the world. We are live on wadr.org. If you're active on all social media platforms, we're also live on Facebook at WADR English Service, as well as YouTube at WADR News. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Abduction of Guinean activist Abdul Sako today raises concern over the state of freedom of citizens. An Ivorian defense sector to scale up border patrol of neighboring Burkina Faso. Liberia's Supreme Court denies petition challenging the constitutionality of President Joseph Boakai's executive order on asset recovery. President Mahama directs appointees to declare assets by March 31 else risks sanction, including removal from office. Still ahead in this package, we have the guest interview and sports news. Stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Back here in Senegal, the 4th edition of the Small and Medium Enterprise Forum continues this weekend, this particular Wednesday, and the event began on Tuesday under the leadership of Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko and will conclude on Thursday, February 20, 2025. This year's theme, SMS and Innovation, Levers on Sovereignty. The forum is timely as the new Senegalese authority are focused on supporting local SMEs to implement their policy of economic sovereignty. Augustin Colley reports.
At the opening of the forum, Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko announced the implementation of a national strategy for the development of small and medium enterprises, SMEs. He stated that an allocation of 1 billion CFA francs will be disbursed towards the program this year.
We are committed to the accelerated implementation for massive financing of SMEs with the goal of increasing the amount of credit granted from 600 billion in 2024 to 3,000 billion CFA francs by 2028. I am summarizing the signing of the financing pact of 1,000 billion to finance SMEs for this year 2025.
The private sector in Senegal was also represented at this meeting, calling for more transparent management of national resources. Adama Lam, the president of the National Confederation of Employers of Senegal, was a key speaker.
Despite the demonstrated goodwill, despite the challenges, our country remains a country with enormous development potential. It is up to us to seize it.
In response to the concerns raised by the private sector, Prime Minister Sonko emphasized the importance of embodying economic patriotism.
The government has already worked on drafting a bill on economic patriotism that will soon be submitted to the National Assembly to better protect our economy. The private sector holds a central place in the options that have been ours.
The forum, organized by the Agency for the Development and Support of Small and Medium Enterprises, will continue on Thursday with approximately 30 panels and master classes, as well as a large exhibition featuring 570 stands. This year, Turkey is the guest country of honor.
Augustine Colley filed the report.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
In our guest interview this evening, it takes us back to Gambia. As you already know, the country yesterday, Tuesday, celebrated its 60th independence anniversary amid mixed reactions on criticism of the progress made so far, particularly in sectors of the economy, security, and social affairs. Our guest is the Deputy Speaker of the National Youth Parliament of the Gambia, Dejin Jobe, as she speaks about the significance of role women play in the development of the country, as well as the challenges that they face.
First, I will start with political. And in 2016, when we really wanted Jammeh to go, yes, there was a lot of work going on. But let me say, when political actors go out on the street to really ensure that they protest against our electoral laws, and which really ignites the 2016 movement to remove Jammeh, it was women that were as part of that delegation on the streets with their brooms symbolizing the domestic tools they use at home. It was women taken to jail. It was women unfortunately raped in that jail. It was women tortured to ensure that today we attain the Gambia that we are able to attain. And when elections come in 2016, it was the likes of Fatmata Tambajang that actually brought together politicians to ensure that we have a coalition strong enough to remove Jammeh from power. And over the years, we have seen other women with significant contributions, women coming in as aspiring presidential candidates in our National Assembly elections, and a lot of more women coming in our local elections. So women have been exceptional with a lot of contribution. And when it comes to economy-wise, they're the ones holding the economy of this country. They're the one engaged in horticulture that is sustaining the livelihood of this country. It is for these little earnings that they're having that they're feeding families in the Gambia. So women are doing a lot when it comes to that aspect.
You've successfully summarized the journey of women's community in the Gambia, and in addition to the continuous fight against FGM, female genital mutilation, revised ban, early marriage, and deprivation of girls' child rights to education, what other challenges persist in the Gambia affecting women's development and growth?
I'm very glad you asked that, because irrespective of the role of women we talk about, women continue to face, discrimination in today's Gambian society in 2025. And I said this because, you talk about other laws. I think in 2021, after our first draft constitution was rejected in Parliament, we have a women's amendment bill to ensure that we have more women representation in Parliament. And you'll be surprised to know, not only that bill was rejected, but we couldn't even have a quorum in the National Assembly to discuss about women representation, and at this time of our history, which is something very sad. And then we continue to have less women in Parliament, and we continue to have less women in the executive. You talk about the FGM bill, and you have seen internationally how Gambian women actually take a stand to ensure that their health rights are protected, their sexual and reproductive health rights are protected. So these are the daily fights of Gambian women, and the struggle continues.
In all of these, how crucial is the campaign towards empowerment and access to affordable health services for the Gambian women?
Unfortunately, for Gambian women, we have seen in the past decade a lot of Gambian women not having access to basic health care, which is very worrying, and it has resulted to the loss of lives of women. It has resulted to women having sicknesses and diseases that are very difficult to cure, and women are sitting with all those things in their homes suffering. But again, our society is still not open enough to see that these are the very factors that resulted in women dying or in women suffering from these diseases.
How much of legislation or legislative efforts have gone into addressing this? In your other submission, you made of the fact that there was no quorum to even talk about women activities and women stuff and pass bills that affect women positively.
It continues to be a lip service, unfortunately. It continues to be a lip service. Every day you hear the issue of women inclusion and all that. But it's a greater problem, starting from our political parties being ready to integrate women in their party executive, being ready to, put women as candidates in their winnable locations. Also being ready to ensure that women in their political parties are empowered enough to be able to be rendered opportunities that men in the political parties are enjoying. And for me, with more women in parliament, it will be easier to address this. Yes, you have some groups like the Committee on Gender at our National Assembly are currently doing internal efforts to see that legislation responds to women in leadership and participation needs in the country. But again, it's beyond what happens in our National Assembly. It becomes a collective responsibility in every facet of society to see that we intentionally level the playing field so that women are also able to vie for these positions and be able to win.
And that's the Deputy Speaker of the National Youth Parliament of the Gambia, Dojen Jobi, speaking about the significant role women play in the development of the country. And we can join Sankuli Janko for details in the world of sports now.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The draw for the quarterfinals of the 2024-25 CAF Champions League will take place in Doha, Qatar on Thursday. The 8 remaining clubs from the continent will learn their path to the final. The 4 group winners will be drawn against the 4 runners-up, though they cannot meet the team who advanced to the knockout stage from their pool according to CAF official website. The draw for the semi-finals will be conducted at the same time. Record 12-time winners Al Ahly of Egypt are seeking to become the first team ever to lift the trophy 3 years in a row as they seek their 13th title. Elsewhere, Nigerian international Ademola Lookman is the subject of heavy criticism after losing a penalty in Atlanta's 3-1 loss to Club Brugge on Tuesday. Lookman, who started from the bench, scored for the Italian Giants to reduce the deficit 2-1 to give them a lifeline. However, he failed to score from the spot kick to level the scores. His own coach, Gianni Pero Gasparini, labelled the Super Eagles forward Lookman as the worst penalty taker. Brugge eventually scored their third and qualified to the round of 16, and many fans on social media blame the Nigeria superstar. And the Ghana Football Association is hosting a training workshop for the leadership of supporters groups scheduled for Friday according to GFA official website. This workshop, according to the officials, aims to educate supporters on recently approved enhanced market safety and security protocols 2025, which prioritizes improving stadium safety and protecting all stakeholders. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Maudu Juf and Umu Daniel for the technical assistance. Do interact with us on all of our social media platforms, X formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook at WADR English Service. I am Christopher Ticho. Good evening and enjoy the rest of our broadcasts.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot